With Joe Biden withdrawing from the presidential race and endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris to replace him at the top of the ticket, there are a lot of questions like, will Arizona's Democratic electors be able to vote for Harris or another candidate at the Democratic National Convention?
Joining us to answer some of those questions is Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, a Democrat who holds the second highest state office in Arizona. So are we to understand that political party electors from Arizona aren't under a legal obligation to vote for the candidate who won our presidential preference election? In other words, Democrat electors can vote for whoever they want at the convention?
Well, first, thanks for having me. And that's sort of true. So when we have our presidential preference election here in Arizona, which is different than a primary, and it's called a presidential preference election for a specific reason, those folks are going to be bound by either the first vote at a convention or until the candidate is nominated, withdraws, or releases their delegates. That is the rule for Arizona's delegates to the political convention. But let's be sure that we understand that conventions can change their own rules. The political parties are independent from state law insofar as their ability to move and shift things. So state law goes so far, but we do honor our political parties and their choices with this ability to kind of wiggle around a little bit.
So bottom line, our Democratic electors from Arizona can vote for somebody other than who the Democrats are putting up?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I happen to be a delegate myself to my party's convention, and so we have no obligation at this stage of the game because the president has decided not to run. So one of those conditions under Arizona Revised Statute 16-243 has been met. He has withdrawn, and so we'll be able to vote for whoever it is that we'd like at our convention, and that we is Arizona's delegates to the Democratic National Convention.
We are talking with Adrian Fontes, Secretary of State for the state of Arizona. Yesterday, a spokesperson said that your office will permit a new presidential candidate as late as August 30th, but we're hearing that Maricopa County, at least, will need to have their ballots finalized by August 22nd. That's before the Democratic National Convention ends. Will the Democratic nominee end up on the ballot in all of Arizona's 15 counties?
Yes, there's no question in my mind that we'll be okay with that. But let's remember, we're not really voting for a president. We're voting for electors to the Electoral College on behalf of whoever the party nominates. That deadline is actually August the 9th to know who the electors are. But the electors don't have to know who their party has nominated by that time. And so we just got to set the table correctly. The presidential preference election doesn't pick a candidate. It picks delegates to the convention, right? Then we have electors that we elect in November, and then the electors themselves elect the president at the Electoral College. It's a Byzantine sort of a thing. We've short-circuited all of this process over the years by simply saying, this is the candidate, and then bam, you've got your president. That's not really how it works when you really look at the rules.
So you're a leading Democrat in Arizona. We have to ask, as bittersweet as it may be, are you happy to see Joe Biden step aside?
Well, look, I think President Biden has been doing a great job, not just as a Democrat, but as an Arizonan. You know, I look at the amount of federal money that is coming into the state from the Infrastructure Act, from the Semiconductor, the CHIPS Act. Look at the literally hundreds of billions of dollars in public and private money that have been brought into Arizona, partially due to Senator Kelly, but of course the president and his administration has done real well. My 401k is doing pretty darn good. I think people have seen huge increases there. So from the numbers side of things, I think the president's done a good job, but let's just look at the moment in history that we're at. This is sort of like a Cincinnatus moment, right, where George Washington, they asked him to continue on, and he said no. Some people really want President Biden to continue on. He's saying no for what he believes, I think, and I'm not in his head, is the best interest of the country and his party. And you've got to respect that. Here's someone who's willing to give up power. Here's someone who's willing to step down from the most powerful position in the United States of America, and he's got a chance at re-election. So I admire it. I'm a little sad for it, but
so I got to ask though, because we're almost out of time. Have you thrown your support behind Vice President Kamala Harris, or would you like to see someone else from your party seek the nomination?
Well, look, the vice president is, in my mind, perfectly capable of becoming the president of the United States and serving very, very well. She has been for the last 4 years. But I think what's really important here is that Arizonans understand that my office and the staff in my office are focused on the elections for all of our voters. And I am not going to get too political. I have said clearly I'm not going to endorse any candidate in a race that I have to certify, and that means all federal and state races. And so while I'm not going to be endorsing anyone in this race, I certainly am going to stay focused on making sure every Arizonan's vote counts and that all Arizonans have the access they need, not just to register, but to submit their ballot and have their voice heard.
All right. Once again, that is Adrian Fontes, Arizona Secretary of State.
Thanks for watching Arizona's Morning News. Click to watch more from KTAR News and hit the button in the middle to subscribe.